And welcome back to each of you who have joined this unique circle of receiving knowledge. Your Office of Alumni Relations created this space to embrace our newest alumni in the class of 2020, since our traditional way of embracing them were paused. As we move through our present time, the From Pause to Clause Alumni Speaker Series remains relevant. Today, we will have another moment of receiving prominent information. As always, the topics support and strengthen the understanding of our current students, recent alumni, those who have worn the badge of honor as alumni for years, and friends of Clark Atlanta University. We look forward to greeting you at each webinar. Likewise, we wish to thank the alumni panelists who have presented there in the past and those presenting today. We did not seek you out, yet you came with the spirit of a mighty panther, which we are, sharing your expertise when the call to participate went forth. Before we move into today's discussion, let me share a tad bit of history on the Office of Alumni Relations signature event. The Alumni Student Networking event was originally designed in 2008 when Kareem Taylor, class of 2010, in his sophomore year, expressed that students should be engaged and learn from alumni of our one exceptional university. The Office of Alumni Relations continuously calls on members of the alumni community to embrace our alumni in waiting, commonly known as students. We encircle them until they become alumni. As Panther Cubs, they develop through discovery, academically, socially, and spiritually, finding their way as their paws grow into claws. And when they become fully entrenched felines, we embrace them so that they will develop locally, nationally, and globally. We call on them to provide financial support to the institution that placed them on their paths of well-rounded citizens. There's more to this program, which can be found on the CAU website. And speaking of financial support, we are over halfway to reaching our 1 million alumni giving goal. Please remember to share your heart with CAU and encourage others to give. As we begin our exchange, I would like to express thanks to my colleague, Chastity B. Evans, class of 2010, who serves as the program manager in the Office of Alumni Relations. She will be your host, for she created this space of interaction. Chastity, it is now time to begin the discussion.
Thank you so much, alumna Gayla and E. Gatewood Joshua, for the admired introduction and credible context. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining your Office of Alumni Relations for the Distance Connection, Why Collaboration is Key in Classroom Learning. A phenomenal thank you to alumna Dr. Michelle Rhodes, Program Specialist for the Office of Online Learning and Continuing Education, for being the technical commander behind all of OAR's webinars. From building confidence to critical thinking, it's a proven fact that collaboration in learning environments helps students learn valuable skills that are essential to becoming valuable employees of the future. Yet, what do we know about collaboration and its benefits beyond the typical student-to-student model? What happens to school environments, student outcomes, and mental health when students are active partners in their education? Participate today in this engaging webinar, during which experts will explore the challenges, best practices, and benefits of collaboration between educators and students as well as consider how this might inform collaboration between educators. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box in our Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during our Q&A section to discuss. Now, without further ado, joining me today is Alumna Booth. Alumna Tatum Booth is a 17-year veteran practitioner and educator. She believes in the success potential of every learner and is committed to providing transformational educational experiences in all environments, whether it is teaching in the classroom, speaking on a panel, or presenting a workshop at a conference. Alumna Booth is an instructional coach that mentors and supports kindergarten to second grade teachers to build their knowledge base and skill level around instruction, curriculum, and assessment. She collaborates with teachers and school leaders to provide instructional coaching cycles, differentiated professional learning opportunities, and recommend instructional resources to support the work of teachers and students. Alumna Booth is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and is a board member of the Clark Atlanta University Alumni Association of Greater New York. She is a trustee of Merit Academy Public Charter School in Queens, New York. Booth received a Master's of Science in Literary from Queens College, Master's of Education in Early Childhood Education from Kennesaw State University, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Early Childhood Education from Clark Atlanta University, as well as an Associate of Arts degree in Early Childhood Education from Borough of Manhattan Community College. Thank you so much, Alumna Booth, and welcome back to your alma mater, and thank you so much for always continuing to serve it. How are you doing today?
I am well, and I'm always better when I'm in the presence of my Clark Atlanta family, and I thank you for this opportunity.
No problem, no problem. We are so proud of what you're doing in Queens and around the world, because I know it's touching everybody, and we truly appreciate you. So we definitely want to hear from you today. So can we start out with your first question?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. So who is your team, and what are your roles and responsibilities? During this transition, it's quite possible that roles need to flex. Responsibilities need to be redistributed, and new perspectives need to be brought to the table. Having a candid conversation about how team members' efforts should be reallocated and how different duties may need to be assigned will be critical to team success, particularly if there are any changes to the team's purpose.
So thank you for that question. It's so great for where we are in this time. So my immediate team consists of 2 first grade teachers and 2 student teachers and a long-term substitute. I currently consider them my immediate team because they need the most support. Mm-hmm. I work with this team academically, with planning, instructionally. I support them by teaching the students in that grade as a coach. And I also offer moral support as their coach. Also, I serve as a model teacher for our student teachers and our substitute teacher. To talk about the teams I support, I'm on the instructional leadership team, the building response team, social justice team, crisis team, and events team, just to name a few. So what I've learned in this time is that our ability to remain flexible and open to the unexpected has truly become a superpower in navigating through the pandemic. I've had to move away from what my job title is, and I had to show up in spaces that were uncomfortable, but definitely needed my support. Being able to architect this perspective leads to strengthened connections and collaborations, which are so important in this time. As change agents, we both have the cognitive power and the influence to model what this looks like in our current lived experience in and out of our classrooms. We have to push through those hard conversations to clarify the purpose of our teams and manage expectations. And lastly, what I would add to this is that it's so important to navigate through this collaboration, the spirit of collaboration, to be able to advocate for yourself, to be reflective, and don't do this alone. One thing that Clark Atlanta University has taught us is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed, and it enables us to build bridges to collaboration.
I wholeheartedly agree on that. I mean, and you seem to definitely have your team down packed. So, as we navigate in person, remote or hybrid learning, like, do you sense that students will become more self-directed learners, or do you feel, or do you and your team feel that this is a setback, and why?
Thank you for that question, Chastity. So I do sense that the students that were already self-directed prior to the pandemic will continue to be self-directed and thrive in this current models of education, while students that were underperforming will see great loss on paper. And I want to make sure I say that on paper, because that's important to think about. The disparities that have existed have become so clear to us in this environment that they're hard to ignore. As data is collected on the impact of the pandemic on education, I do believe we'll see our Black and Brown students that are below in academic performance also see some loss in that area. As educators, we must utilize culturally responsive pedagogy to affirm our students' resilience and to keep hope and love at the forefront of this work. So what I'm saying here is that even though I know that they're going to suffer some academic loss, that's not how we should have them show up. We should be able to see past the academic, what's on paper, and really affirm their ability to be resilient. In this time, I know that students have gained more ability to be able to express themselves socially and emotionally. And definitely, they've become so much better at using the computer and technology. And those are the things we have to focus on, because there would be loss, but if we only see them academically, we won't be able to see the gains they've made through this pandemic. They've had to pivot just like us as educators have to pivot, and we have to value that for them. So thank you for that question.
No problem. And thank you so much for being able to see, the other side of it, the resilience for technology, being more creative and expressive socially and mentally, because we need that. And like you said, academically, I mean, on paper, they are still learning. So it just may not be as what they, what we were taught 10, 20 years ago. And that is the way of the world now. So, that's definitely a positive. And we're grateful that you're in that position to see that.
Thank you.
If you all have any questions for Alumna Booth, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A section. Thank you again, Alumna Booth. We really appreciate you. Coming up next is Alumna Deanne Searles. Alumna Searles is an experienced educator, academic, interventionalist, and parent educator. A native Detroiter, Deanne completed her undergraduate studies in Atlanta, Georgia, earning her Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Clark Atlanta University. She also earned an MED in secondary education and an MA in educational leadership from The Ohio State University and Cornerstone University, respectively. As a former classroom teacher, Alumna Searles has dedicated her life to underserved youth and adults in her community. Active in her community, Alumna Searles is a member of several organizations, including the Junior League of Detroit, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the Detroit Inter-Alumni Council of the UNCF. Alumna Searles is a dedicated Girl Scout volunteer and alumna for the Girl Scouts of Southeastern Michigan. Deanne's greatest accomplishment is as a wife and a mother. She is happily married, and the proud dotting mother has 2 daughters. They have 2 beautiful daughters, although they are happily married. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, cooking, camping, taking long walks, spending time with family and friends. Thank you so much, Alumna Searles. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I guess one of the most important things that we forgot to mention is that I'm the president of the Detroit chapter of the Clark Atlanta University Alumni Association. I think that's pretty important to mention.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Hands down. Yes, it is. And I see now where that camping came in, because somebody is, I'm assuming, is a Girl Scout till they die at heart, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we're going to dive into your first question for today. Is that okay?
That is fine.
Awesome. So, how do you respond to the uncertainty, ambiguity, and isolation experienced by so many members of our communities? How much much of our work as educators, it happens in teams. You know, we just experienced the same thing from Alumna Booth. Teamwork has traditionally played a critical role in schools, and while many of us find ourselves physically isolated, our collaborative work with one another may be more important now than ever.
So we are certainly in, thank you so much for that question, Chastity. We are certainly in uncertain and unsettling times. Of course, we know that most, if not all of us, are experiencing some form of isolation. I especially think of our senior population that oftentimes already experience some forms of isolation. And that has only been exacerbated as a result of COVID restrictions. But to your point specifically, as it relates to education, this has been an extremely difficult time for students, educators, and parents. I had a conversation with individuals the other day and commented that school communities already struggling with engagement and academic achievement have only seen those issues magnified during this pandemic, similar to what Ms. Booth mentioned just a moment ago. Yes, there are always outliers, but by and large, many school communities are suffering. And one reason that we see this call for the reopening of schools is related to the loss of academic achievement. But again, that's just one reason. We could debate some of the other reasons why there is a push to reopen schools, right? But first and foremost, I would like to just encourage all of us to not lose hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We do not have to give up, throw in the towel, and just throw up all of our hands, because there are strategies that we can implement even now to maintain collaboration and respond to the uncertainty and isolation that we feel. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we are clear about when we talk about collaboration, especially as it relates to our children, is that collaboration is not merely group work, right? It's just not just throwing some people together and saying complete a group assignment and then you can check off the list and say, hey, we collaborated. So that is not the case. So we all know that collaboration pre-COVID was not the easiest thing to do, right? But there are some surefire ways that we can engage. So one of the things that we can do is to definitely establish diverse groups. So establishing groups with varying skill sets, assigning roles to ensure accountability, and offer opportunities for self-assessments and group assessments. We all remember the feeling of being in school and hating being assigned to groups, because we always knew that there was going to be one person, at least one, who was not going to pull their weight, right? And so everybody else had to do what, everybody else's work as opposed to everyone contributing. So when you add that assessment piece, not only the self-assessment, but the assessment of the group, I think that's a big help to making sure that we have some sense of accountability. Secondly, identifying shared purpose and goals. So in other words, why are you coming together? What's the target? What is the purpose? What's the end goal, right? What is the intended outcome? And how is this beneficial to everyone who is involved? So I think it's important that that is established. And third, set up meeting times and also utilize shared documents. Google Drive has become my best friend during the pandemic. I don't know if anybody else can agree to that. It is awesome being able to see work come together in real time. Google also has other tools such as Google Hangouts. There are not devices, but programs such as Microsoft Teams and Flock and Slack, which are other tools that people can use to share information and to communicate in this virtual world. Many individuals, especially students, have reported increased feelings of depression, and we know that that is real. So incorporating more opportunities for students to engage with one another, as well as staff to engage with one another, and reducing the amount of time of direct instruction and lecturing students receive is important. So even in an in-person setting, we all can relate that just listening to one person talk you to death is is not the most optimal way to engage in learning and the exchange of teaching and learning. So
I agree. I agree. I mean, I preferably, prefer a balance, because sometimes you learn more when things are more interactive and more hands-on than you do when people are just talking, because then it becomes so monotone. And unless you're taking notes or something, it's not going to always seep in. So, and especially when you're teaching younger kids or even parents, because we're just so used to one thing, sometimes you got to step out the box. So great ideas and, and initiatives to definitely take down and move forward. So um, are your students, and I know you touched a little bit about on this when you were talking, but are your students able to self-assess and make good choices? Do they clearly understand their overall objectives? And why or why not? Do you feel that this may be a universal problem? And this can also go towards, educators and parents too. Does everybody, or do you feel that everyone understands their objective?
So in a ideal world, right, my mantra is model, model, model. So we cannot expect our students to effectively demonstrate behaviors that should eventually become habits without modeling, right? That's the ideal way that we would like to proceed. So we want to, in an ideal world, set the expectation, model the expectation often, and correct when necessary. Stop and repeat. That's what we want to do, right? So we all know, or at least should know, that that is the best way that students respond is to consistency. However, Chastity, we know that right now during the pandemic, our students and our school communities have been experiencing anything but consistency, right? Most districts simply were not prepared for the world that we were thrust in Michigan beginning March 13th. So I don't know where everyone else is from, but beginning March 13th, everything shut down. Schools closed, businesses closed, it all changed, right? So many districts were not prepared to go fully virtual. There were several school districts where schools closed and then they eventually decided to go into this virtual world, some maybe like the end of April or early May. But you had an issue with attendance. You had an issue with just where do we go and how do we do this, right? So most schools engaged in just pass or fail. So the traditional grades went out the window. It was just pass or fail for the rest of the school year. Some students attended classes, some did not. We were all just in a new space. So it was kind of like grace, 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 grace. Remember, we kind of overused that word, grace, right? We need grace. So the overwhelming majority of students, however, did not have digital devices for school use. So over the summer, we were scrambling to figure out ways, how can we get students digital devices? So we went through this process over the summer. Now we're in fall. Schools are still virtual, for the most part, virtual, and we have these devices. So let's just pick up where we left off in February or early March. Well, guess what? That's not going to work because in the spring, students were operating from just a pass fail. I may want to come to school today. I may not want to come to school. And so now we're saying to students, we're going to try to pretend like we're having school the way we were in person, but just from a virtual perspective, and it was not working. So we have seen so many students who have struggled academically. The number of students who were failing, literally, classes, multiple classes, just shot through the roof. You had school schedules that were still the same. So we were virtual, but you're still expected to be at school from 8 to 3:30, still with 50-minute class sessions. Guess what? That does not work, right? So what ended up happening in many districts, they realized we need to do a pivot. Again, it's new to everyone. So a lot of people they had no idea what to do and how this should look. Even over the summer, there wasn't a lot of training for educators as to how do I teach virtually, right? So it's just new for everyone. So when we say, are students making their goals and self-assessing and being consistent, I would say not really, but was anybody? You know what I mean? That's just the world that we are living in. So I think it can be argued that unclear expectation and moving targets are a major part of that. And so I would just say it's a work in progress, really, Chastity. It's a work in progress.
I mean, and that's good that you all know that and that you are tackling the problem so it doesn't become worse, you know? And
let me just add to that, we in our district, our major public school district here, the district decided that they were no longer going to assign traditional failing grades. So they just eliminated D's and F's altogether. So students no longer have to fear that, because we know that we are in a unfamiliar territory.
Yeah. I mean, 8 to 3:30, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be like a goldfish in a fishbowl. Like,
right.
That's so definitely kudos to, you all for definitely trying, tackling the problem, right now. Well, last year. So going forward, it'll become better and better and more familiar. And technology and everything is forever changing. So, we have to forever evolve as well. So thank you for being positive and resilient about it. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
No problem. If you all have any questions for Alumna Searles, be sure to type the questions into our Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Thank you again. All right, coming up is Alumna Vivette Mans. As a professional development facilitator, educator, and literary specialist, Vivette Mans has dedicated more than a decade to improving educational practices in the state of Georgia. Throughout the years, Alumna Mans has collaborated with hundreds of teachers, administrators, and school district leaders across the state of Georgia through direct coaching, professional development sessions, and creating video resources for training. Outside of her work, Alumna Mans is a children's book author, penning the popular book HBCU Proud and more forthcoming books, which I have 2 copies of. She also creates educational curriculum for children ages 5 to 12 to expose them to HBCUs. Her popular ABCs of HBCUs curriculum was released 6 years ago through her teaching blog, The Lit Teacher. Alumna Mans also serves on the National Council of Teachers of English, where she represents on the importance of authentic representation in children's literature. She is also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated as well. Thank you so much, Alumna Mans, for joining today. We truly appreciate you for being here and for always serving your alma mater. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and thank you so much for having me here today.
No problem. We definitely look forward to see what the great state of Georgia is doing. So describe your day-to-day work. Like, how does your team work together to partner with teachers, school leaders, and community members? And has this distance caused any change in your day-to-day operations? Because I know yours is a little different. So,
Yes.
you know, how's what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Okay, so my day-to-day work, I work at a research center right now in Atlanta, Georgia. So I've worked in public schools, charter schools, and now the research center where I work is inside of a private school. So I've seen a lot of the different faces that education in Atlanta and Georgia have. So my day-to-day work is twofold. One part of my job is as a literacy facilitator. I partner with elementary schools in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and I directly coach instructional coaches, kindergarten through third grade literacy teachers, and advise principals on how to create an ecosystem for literacy in their schools. So if you think of an ecosystem in the scientific sense, like all the things that work together that are living and non-living to create an ample environment for everything to function and flow together, I have the wonderful opportunity to navigate those things with school leaders, district leaders, as far as choosing curriculum, professional development plans, direct coaching and modeling. And it is the most fulfilling thing I have done in my education as a professional. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that since we're talking about the spirit of collaboration, I truly think that the spirit of greatness, which we all embody as alumni, people who graduated from Clark Atlanta University, really guides each and every one of our work every day. And when we hold ourselves to those high standards and we let the students and teachers know we want to be here, they can tell. And that's what makes them show up for us when we show up for them, and we show up for ourselves as well. So a lot of the foundational things that we've learned at Clark Atlanta University have really helped to guide our day-to-day work, no matter how many years it's been since we've been on the promenade, or whether the promenade was there when we were there or not. It still guides our day-to-day work. So one facet is the literacy facilitation and direct training. The other facet is as a content developer. So I write instructional scripts and courses for teachers to recertify and train online. And the courses are free. We receive a very large grant from Cox Communications and many other partners across the metropolitan area and national areas. So we have a website called coxcampus.org, coxcampus.org. And there are courses for family members, parents, literacy teachers, birth through 5 caretakers and educators. And my department is the K through 3 department. So we do really great courses on the science of reading. So we tend to think, and I say we as a collective, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an uninformed early educator. I thought that reading was one of those skills that students tended to acquire naturally, or if you expose them to enough text, they would pick it up, or yeah, they can use context clues and figure this out. But the thing about reading, it is a specific scientific methodology, and there is so much intentionality that has to go into the instruction. So what I like to do in my work is merge the science of reading with the art of teaching. I think sometimes, things get a little theoretical, but then sometimes we don't show what that looks like in the classroom. So I like to merge those two and make the courses really engaging and really personable for teachers to take, because teachers are on the front line. Teachers know more than anybody else can tell them. So I would want to honor them and uplift their voices and kind of receive the input that they have. So I developed courses. So during the pandemic, I'm calling it twin pandemics, because we are fighting some of the the effects of COVID with, let me find the politically correct word, professional environment here. Craziness, no, just systematic and systemic racism and oppression, and policies that are made to dim the light of people who naturally glow within their environment. We're fighting those things. It's straight racism. So between racism and COVID, I call those the twin pandemics. So we've had to pivot during education, during COVID. Me personally, March 13th, that's my day too. I've been working from my living room since March 13th. So I've had to change how I collaborate with teachers. That means putting videos on YouTube or putting them on our live, on our platform on Cox Campus. And interestingly enough, there was a video that I made for work maybe about 3 years ago, had 130,000 views on YouTube, talking about one of the foundational skills of reading for teachers. And it was kind of sitting there. And then during the pandemic, it took off. And it's almost near 700,000 views because teachers and educators and family members are looking for solutions for what to do with their children. So it truly does take a village. But I must say, I'm grateful to have the village of Clark Atlanta University and professors and alumni whom I can reach out to and collaborate with to continue doing the work.
Most definitely. Come on, Miss Viral. You really showing up and showing out with the spirit of greatness. We see you. Okay. Look, just give us some shine when you get there, and
All the time.
maybe throw us back a bone. Would be good. So, in your role, how do you advocate for children of color and underserved students?
That is a great question. I think that my quest for representation for underserved Black and brown children, people of color, and because they're not synonyms. People tend to think that just because it's an underserved population, that automatically means Black and brown children. But when we look at low socioeconomic students, it's a variety of races. However, for me, my priority is for the children and teachers who look like me, to be honest, because systemically there are barriers that hold us back from reaching the same opportunities and experiences as our counterparts. So for representation, I keep, as a classroom teacher, I'm laughing because I used to keep an empty desk in the back of my classroom and said, if I had a child, would I want my own child to be in my classroom? And that has changed from, I've always kind of kept that in mind when I coach teachers. Am I giving the most of myself to this teacher to empower them? It's not a top-down approach like, oh, well, let me tell you what to do because I know all the answers. I don't know all the answers. And we as educators know this is a mutually lifelong learning-based experience. So keeping that front of mind and doing the best for our children despite the barriers is really important, as well as representation on the side. I'm looking to see if any of my coworkers are participants in this call, but spare time, evenings and weekends, not while I'm on the clock, I work with a company called Reconstruction. And so their website is reconstruction.us. And we work to create Black-centered curriculum as supplementary or homeschool-based instruction for children. So it's one of those for us, by us things. And so representation really matters. If you go on the site, you'll see Black clip art, you'll see Black tutors, and one of the curriculum courses that I write is a phonics course because I love literacy. And I managed to embed HBCUs into that curriculum. So if I'm teaching letter sounds for F and V as sister sounds, or talking about the pluralization of F changing to V, then I was able to tie in a lesson about Fort Valley because that HBCU has both of those letters at the initial sound. So big reading stuff, but I'm exposing to our kids to these things at an early age, but letting them know still it's okay to be who you are. Don't rush, allow yourself to be a child. But I would hate for children have to be exposed to HBCUs late like I was. I lived in New York, I lived in Queens, grew up there my whole life, and had never heard of an HBCU, and it has changed my life. And that's why, shameless plug, why I wrote HBCU Proud, because I wanted some information in a child-friendly format with children that look like them. Only 11.9% of children's books are written by Black authors or illustrators and feature Black characters. And we have a multitude of stories to tell. And I think representation also shows, historical things that we've been through, but it also shows us simply existing and in Black joy. So for me in representation, I keep that Black joy as an act of resistance in my front of mind every day.
Oh my goodness. You need to just go ahead and drop those links in the chat for HBCU Proud and for the For Us by Us phonics, because we may need to pass that on down the line somewhere.
We will, definitely will.
I was trying to see if Dr. Rhodes, if she received the email to play a clip of what you were referring to earlier, but I don't see her. If not, we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Check it out. It's on YouTube. It's called 44 Phonemes. And it's just a video of me describing, there's 26 letters in the alphabet, but phonetically they make up those 44 sounds that are the foundation of written and spoken language. So it's very helpful to teachers. It talks about how to pronounce them. The camera's really close, so don't look too close, but it's really helpful. So thank you for allowing me to share and to fellowship with such great educators today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So thank you so much, Alumna Mans, for your intellect and for your determination to continue to push forward with our students. That is very commendable. I mean, all of our alumni on this call are doing such an awesome job, and we are so proud of you all. So kudos to y'all for definitely carrying on that spirit of greatness. Thank you. If you all have any questions for Alumna Mans, please type them into our Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we're about to bring the heat from Birmingham, Alabama. Alumna Dr. Samantha Elliot Briggs has a doctoral degree in instructional leadership and a master's degree in women's studies from the University of Alabama, as well as a bachelor's degree in early childhood education from Clark Atlanta University. A native of St. Louis, Missouri, Alumna Dr. Briggs has nearly 30 years of experience in education as an urban school teacher, adjunct professor, curriculum writer, consultant, and director of nonprofit education programs. In addition, Alumna Dr. Briggs is the project director for a U.S. Department of Education grant, Gear Up, GEAR-UP, Alabama, at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. In this capacity, Briggs oversees a $60 million budget and the direct services designed to significantly increase the number of students from high poverty backgrounds who are prepared to enter and succeed in college, military, or the workforce. The 9,000 students served are from 21 different school districts located throughout 17 rural Alabama Black Belt counties. Her work has landed Alabama, Dr. Briggs a position on the National Gear Up Advisory Board and as the recipient of the 2020 National Gear Professional of the Year Award. Congratulations. Alumna Dr. Briggs is also a semifinalist in the CBS Next Star Media Group Remarkable Woman of the Year competition, currently underway. Go ahead, girl. We see you. We see you right there. Married to her CAU love, alumnus Dr. Calvin Briggs, class of 1994, Alumna Samantha Elliot Briggs is a third-generation Clarkite, following in the footsteps of her great-grandmother, Atlanta University, 1903, and two grandparents, Atlanta University, 1931. She is the mother of 3 children and grandchildren of grandmother of 1. Her youngest, Calvin Elijah, will become the 4th-generation Clarkite, beginning this fall in 2021. All right now. That's what's up. Thank you so much, Alumna Dr. Briggs. How are you doing today?
I'm amazing. How are you, Chastity?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for always serving your alma mater. We thank you for being on the call today and for bringing us all home.
Thank you for the invite.
No problem. So what is your team's purpose? Because, teams may need to recalibrate their purpose to ensure that they're working on the right things at the right time. How has your presence changed and how has it stayed the same? And also, what are your goals and how will you measure success? How does your team purpose relate to the purposes of other teams within your organization? I know that's a lot, but I know you do this every day, so it's like clockwork.
No, it is a big question, but a big question related to a big project. So, and really, I think if you ask what our purpose and goals and mission and all that is, it depends on who you're asking, how you get that answer. And so having a $60 million budget, I'm sure the federal government thinks my goal and purpose is one thing. My university thinks my goal and purpose is another thing. but I serve 9,300 families. And so from that, my purpose is something completely different. And so on one hand, my mind has to think money, because not only do I have to take care of the money that they entrust me with to provide direct services, but I also have to fundraise every month. And so as director, we had a very aggressive goal of $500 to $1 million a month in in-kind donations. And so that's one piece of it. But as an educator, I started off as a kindergarten teacher. And then I spent, 20 years teaching women and gender studies, African-American studies, sociology. And so really just digging into who people are and doing social justice education work. And so from that perspective, being able to really focus my energy and focus my attention on the curriculum and focus my attention and, on what the students needs, there comes this thing. But the overarching goal of the grant and the work that I do in that capacity is to significantly increase the number of students from high poverty backgrounds that are prepared to enter and succeed in post-secondary education. So since they were in 6th and 7th grade, that is creating camps, creating interactive college tours, that is ACT prep, mentoring, tutoring, just anything and everything that you think that it would take to get a first generation child from a high poverty background. Mind you, we are in rural Alabama, the Black Belt. The Black Belt region is the center crescent shape of the state. It once was the wealthiest stretch of land in the entire United States. Most people can guess because of King Cotton, therefore slavery. And now it is the poorest stretch of land in the United States. And what a lot of people don't think about when I give that information is I am dealing with the direct descendants of both the slave owners and the slaves. And so my work has that added layer because I have a lot of barriers to chip away at. I have to, change mindsets, do total community paradigm shifts in order to even get them to think that they deserve an education, that they can achieve these higher things that nobody else has done. Plus, they also have to deal with folks who've told them historically that you can't do these things, you don't belong in these spaces. So, what is my overarching goal? What is my purpose? Has it changed? Not really. The pandemic got in our way, but Clark Atlanta taught us what? Find a way or make one. My entire staff, I have a staff of about 99 people collectively. That includes our full-time and our part-time staff. I promise you, if I ask any single one of them, what is the motto of Clark Atlanta University or what is the motto of Dr. Briggs, they will all collectively say, we will find a way or we will make one today. And that is what we do. And culture for service. I am a servant leader. I will never ask my team to do anything that I am not willing to do myself. If they are cleaning a bathroom, I'm, in there myself. If they are doing anything, I am doing it with them. And so, in terms of how things have shifted, how things have changed, we had a transition from face-to-face to virtual. I love and I get energy from other people. I love and I get energy from interacting with, I call them all my babies because they are. And without that and being separated by Zoom, I'm not a classroom teacher. So I don't have that prescribed space by the district where they have to come to me. At this point, it's almost like it's a choice for them. They choose to show up. And so we did, like everybody else has mentioned, we had to do a pivot. We had to completely change the way that we do things. I was luckily enough from the collaborative standpoint, Dr. Christopher Bass and Dr. Gary White from Clark Atlanta, they've been my partners on the grant for the last several years. So I brought them on to help us with social emotional work. They used to come down once a month in person and we would do these Black Belt bus tours where we would take volunteers from the community in Birmingham and drive them down into the rural areas. And we called it a rolling classroom. So we've had Professor Jared Grant, basically all my classmates who do the work that I do. But every month they would come down and we would do a rolling classroom from Birmingham into one of our communities. My closest school community is 90 miles. My furthest school community is 187 miles. And we would teach people about the impact of poverty on healthcare, on education, on lifestyle, all of those things. And so even that had to shift. And so now we do it live. We do a Facebook Live mostly every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we reach our constituents that way. And luckily, I mean, you know, we are able to reach far more people than just our core group of students, you know, because, you know, we're on live and we all share it 1,010,000 times. So, so yeah, our purpose hasn't changed because you know, I have goals and objectives that I have to meet federally, as well as with my institution. The way that we have done it has changed significantly, though.
Well, it seems to me that it's become more innovative and creative, you know. So, yeah, I mean, you're leading the way in Birmingham. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Lady Black Panther Briggs of Birmingham, Alabama, right here. She's doing it over there. So how does your team take pride in their work? Do you take in consideration, you know, rituals, traditions, or cultural elements to build a positive team culture and instill a sense of pride and belonging? I mean, I know you spoke a little bit about what is your motto, you know, because you live by it and they live by it too. But what are some other things that you all practice?
You know, I tell people all the time, like, our work is very hard. You know, I never deny that. It is super duper hard. On a normal day, you know, pre-pandemic, you know, I could work 10, 12 hours a day. Since then, you know, I think I was working right away, 15 hours easy. But it's because the university was starting to furlough people. And I needed to think quickly on my feet to make sure no one on my team got furloughed. So I needed to make everyone super relevant. But when you serve students who are no longer in a classroom, I knew that the conversation could quickly shift to, well, they don't have anybody to serve, therefore they can be on the furlough list, because every division at the university had to be reduced by a certain percentage and every budget had to be reduced by a certain percentage. So I started working like beyond overtime to create immediate programs. Like Alumna Man's curriculum writing is my heart. I love writing curriculum and programs. So that's just kind of the mode we went into. But I have an amazing team of young millennials that, you know, are innovative and creative, and just together we just started hustling, like, what can we do differently? And so our hard work, HARD, is really heart work, HEART. And so as long as we keep the heart in mind, it gives us the energy and what we need to do the hard stuff. And so in terms of traditions, rituals, I operate from love languages, but I'm careful not to operate out of my own all the time and think about myself when I think about others. I love acts of service and I love like gifts and affirmations. So that's what I do for my team. You know, as soon as they're hired, everybody gets a Google link and, you know, we ask, what are your favorites? I know everyone's favorite candy. I know everyone's birthday. I know everyone's, you know, favorite color. I know their favorite food, you know, whatever might make them happy. And then I use that information at random times. You know, this is the kindergarten teacher and me doing like the random acts of kindness, caught you being good. Yesterday, I put on, when I left the office, I put on everybody's desk a coffee mug with a slogan that reminded me of them. So I have one kid, he's working on his dissertation right now. So I put on his desk a coffee mug that says "One day at a time." My business officer, she is the queen of hustle. She is the one who makes sure that we get our money straight. She is in charge of that $60 million budget staying in the black. I got her a coffee mug that says "I can fix it." I have a blonde hair, blue-eyed mini-me, as they call her in the office. She is my child that, no one know where she came from, but she acts just like me. And she keeps the boundaries around me, and she keeps me protected from foolishness. And if I need something excellent done, she's my go-to person. It happens quickly, and nobody asks her any questions because they know that it came from me. And so I got her a coffee mug that says nope, N-O-P-E, nope, because she will tell anybody no when she knows I'm about to say yes. I got somebody else one that says self-care and so forth, and I put Easter egg grass in it, and then I put their favorite candies in it. So just something like that, and then I texted them all a picture because we're hybrid, so people kind of come and go in the office, nobody's in there consistently, but I took a picture of each person's mug and sent it to them and said, next time you come into the office, there's a treat waiting on you. But we do work, and especially now that we're virtual, it's very difficult to feel appreciated. We used to be able to get the reaction from the kids like right away, the instant gratification. We used to be able to see report cards. We used to be able to, see whatever little successes that they had, awards day, and know that they were on the path. And so now, that's more challenging. It's more difficult to know. Yesterday, we had a really rough day. We learned that there was a shooting in one of our communities. And I lost 2 students. I lost, one to the bullet, and one who might possibly have been the one to have pulled the trigger, from 2 different school communities. I see that all the time now, but when you're dealing with 9,300 kids, things are gonna happen. But on the flip side of that, I just presented, like literally 5 minutes before this conference, I was at a conference presenting with my team. And I was proud to have one of my babies from 7th grade, who I now employ, she co-presented with us. And her story brought the whole house down. Like everybody was in tears hearing her journey. And so those are, the balances of our life and of our work and how we get to do things. And so, I think within that, we are storytellers. We like to present the stories of our communities. We like to present their growth and their resilience. We don't want people to think of them as the Black belt, as this downtrodden, oppressed group of people, but we want people to see the resilience and how they've grown. And so I think within that, you find rituals, traditions, cultural elements, and all of that other good stuff.
Awesome. And that is the truth. One thing about people of color, we are some resilient people, and we will change any type of coal into a diamond all day. So yes, kudos to that. And so sorry for your loss in regards to the shooting. But we know you kicked butt this morning during the conference. We know you did that. So there's not a doubt. Thank you so much again, Dr. Alumna Elliot Briggs, for breaking it down and for captivating us with your journey and all that you have to offer and that you are continuing to do. We are so proud of you. If you all have any questions for Dr. Alumna Elliot Briggs, for Alumna Dr. Elliot Briggs, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now, and we'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. I think there we go. We were going to show you a quick clip, really quick, of Alumna Man's video. So you could take a look at it and...
Hi, I'm Yvette, a facilitator at the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. You probably already know the English language has very distinct sounds, or phonemes, that we combine in different ways to make words. In this video, we are going to demonstrate how to pronounce each of the individual phonemes. Often, we accidentally add an extra or schwa sound to the end of consonants. If students hear, it may then be reflected in later reading and writing tasks. To prevent this, it is important to produce only the phoneme itself without any additional sounds. An example of this is the sound p. Sometimes, when teachers are trying to emphasize or isolate a phoneme, they say p. Instead, focus on producing just the phoneme itself. P. We'll start with the consonant phonemes. You'll see the associated letter or letter combination, also known as a grapheme, on the screen as I say the sound. Ready? Here we go. B as in banana. D as in dinosaur. F as in fish. G as in guitar. H as in hand. J as in jelly. K as in car. U as in leaf. M as in Monday. N as in nail. Ng as in the end of the word sing. P as in pumpkin. R as in rain. S as in sun. J as in the middle of treasure. T as in turtle. V as in volcano. W as in watch. Y as in yo-yo. Z as in zip. Some graphemes, such as Q and X, are composed of two phonemes. For example, Q makes the Q sound, and X makes the X sound. The next phonemes are considered to be digraphs, where two letters make one sound. Ch as in child. Sh as in shoes.
Wow. You know what? I'm going to have to, look at that myself because I think I'm mispronouncing some words. I'm like, treasure. Okay, make sure. Thank you so much, Alumna Mans. We'll be sure to share that and share that with some of our teachers that are part of our groups and stuff, so we can definitely get that video out. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our alumni panelists for bringing their passion, expertise, and gems that were released today to go forth with you. We will now go ahead and take some time for our questions now. Just a reminder to be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. Now is the time to engage with your alums and network. And I know some of the questions have already been answered. Thank you so much to our alums that were in the chat that were definitely answering the questions and the Q&A. So we really appreciate that. So let's go to our Q&A. Oh, never mind, they've all been answered. They've all been answered. Great job. Awesome. Well, if anybody would like to leave any last minute comments, you may do so at this time before we conclude, since we are slightly over the time.
I just want to say real quick, I think that this space right here that you all have created is the perfect example and embodiment of exactly what we were here to talk about today. And you know, the guest did not have the privilege of being able to hear our pre-talk, you know, just catching up. But I have to say, with Miss Joshua and Dr. Rhodes, like, they are the women who raised me. I can't speak for everybody else, but I will definitely say they are the women who raised me. And when I think about who I am in the school communities, I think about these women. You know, Miss Joshua doesn't know just how much it meant even for her to say, "Hey, homegirl," and she says it in that sweet sing-song voice. But being from Missouri, together on that campus, "Hey, homegirl, how you doing?" You know, but my children know them as, you know, their other mothers and aunties, you know, as well. And so I'm just grateful. And it really does begin at home. And alma mater, meaning other mother, they are Clark Atlanta, they are the other mother. And that allows me to be that to others. So I'm just grateful for this space.
Amen to that. Anyone else?
I would add to what she said. I'm also grateful for this space, and it's always great to know that we're not doing this work in isolation, and we have power in our sisterhood and our we're alums, right? So I'm just excited to just even learn from each of you and continue like the SWA and all of those things. I'm using it with my teachers. I'm excited, but it's also great because like she said, alma mater, our mother, Clark Atlanta, continues to give back to us even in where we are. And I'm just really excited about that and just look forward to stay connected to do this work together.
Thank you, Alumna Booth.
So as I mentioned earlier, right, Clark Atlanta is absolutely in my heart. I wouldn't serve as I do as an alum in the city of Detroit if that were not the case. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to engage in this type of a conversation with my fellow alumni, because it's just so important. First of all, this topic is critically important, but more importantly, it is so important for us as alumni to return and provide service to our alma mater every time that we are able to do so. We would not be who we are or where we are today if it were not for the priceless investment that Clark Atlanta made into us. So anytime that I am called on to serve and I'm able to do so, I will gladly do so. So thank you again for having me today as a part of this panel discussion.
Thank you, Alumna Searles.
And I'll keep it brief because these wonderful women have embodied all of our thoughts and hearts in this space. But I don't know about you all, I just feel so much joy right now. Just know, as educators, we're doing the Lord's work, but we are here together, fellowshipping, and just the participants who are all here. Thank you for spending the middle of your day with us. This is as fulfilling for us as a mutually beneficial experience. And thank you immensely to the staff at Clark Atlanta University for reaching out to think of us and to allow us to share our experiences and how Clark Atlanta has shaped and molded us as the professionals that we are. CAU has been the institution that keeps on giving in so many ways. And I'm going to say this on behalf of everybody, we're elated to be here because, like I said, I feel the love that's here, and love is the driving force behind educating our children and changing their futures. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alumna Mans. All right. Thank you all for your questions. Please stay in contact with our alumni. Look out for our upcoming events and follow us on our social media platforms at CAU Alumni Relations. Alums, if you all would like to drop your social handles in the chat now, please do so people may reach out to you. They may have questions regarding what you do, or how to operate and collaborate with their classrooms or in their classrooms. So great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your virtual presence and your energy. Special thanks to our colleagues, Senior Director of Alumni Relations, Mrs. Galen Egatewood-Joshua, and to Dr. Michelle Rose for always being supreme in service. Thanks again for joining us today, and we definitely look forward to seeing you all on April 8th. Have an awesome weekend and a happy Easter.